Hello and welcome to another brief demonstration of capsule structure inheritance in an upcoming release of the Eclipse Papyrus-RT project. Today we'll look at inheritance in the capsule structure diagram. So here we have a capsule with a couple of ports and a part. One of the ports is replicated. We've seen something like this before. And there's another capsule that has its diagram also. So let's start by creating a generalization to make capsule 2 a specialization of capsule 1. Okay, so here we see that as before, capsule 1 has inherited a bunch of parts and has inherited these two ports and a part from capsule 1, but now also it inherits them visually. Now there's a bit of a glitch in the refresh of these diagrams that is not related to this feature, so let me just hit refresh in there. So now the size and positioning of the ports and parts that are inherited match the structure diagram of the capsule that they're inherited from. So now let's save this, and as we've seen before, capsule 1 of course defines these ports and this part, and capsule 2 in the actual UML model only has the generalization. It inherits these and doesn't redefine them in any particular way yet. Now let's also have a look at what the changes in the notation file are for this diagram, which now shows these inherited views. So let me go into a comparison here. And on the left is the original diagram, on the right is the new diagram, and we see that there are no changes. In particular, if I just collapse the capsule 1 structure diagram here, we see that in capsule 2, there's the class shape with its labels. It has some annotation there. The capsule has some stereotype application views as children, but it does not have any child views for ports nor for the capsule part. So that's what we'd like to see, that the inherited views don't actually need to be serialized in the notation file until they're actually redefined. So for example, I can move this around and the location of this port over here tracks. I can move the part around, that tracks too. So that looks good so far, right? We haven't redefined anything in these diagrams. So if we go save, go back to the notation. Okay, so we do see that in the capsule 1 structure diagram, of course, we've moved some things. So we've moved this part shape, and we've moved the port shape, but those are in the capsule 1 diagram. The capsule 2 diagram hasn't changed at all. Those views don't need to be persisted because they are inherited from the parent capsule diagram. So that's good. But now what if I do make a change to the notation here? I want to lay this out because I'm going to be adding some other content to capsule 2, maybe some other ports and parts. So there we go. Let's save that. And now we go to our comparison. And here's a new change, which is the introduction now in the capsule 2 structure diagram of the property shape for that part. And now, because it needs its own visualization here, there needs to be something in the UML model serialized for this diagram to reference. So we see that, in the UML now, that capsule part is redefined. So it has the root fragment on the redefined element. It redefines, of course, the inherited part. None of the other details are specified, including even things like visibility, because those are inherited according to the semantics of deep inheritance in UML-RT. So anyways, that's good. And now these are things that we should be able to undo, right? So let's go and, let's go and undo that redefining of the element. So the shape snaps back to where it was inherited from. The redefined element is now gone from the UML model. And looking at our comparison of the notation, once again, the only changes that we've made from the initial state of the model are in the parent capsule diagram. The capsule 2 diagram now no longer has that port shape. So that was, as we expect, undo undoes all of the changes that we affected. Now we can also create some new content here. Let's create a new port with some new protocol. That's good. And there we see the inherited port now reflected over there. And this, of course, is an internal behavior part. This one inherits the internal behaviorness. And as before, the inherited port just tracks that around. So, we don't have any decorations yet on these things to indicate that what their inheritance state is. That is some nice UI affordances to implement in a future step. Oh, and I almost forgot one thing that I want to show is, yes, the inherited element tracks the original definition around in the diagram. If I redefine this thing by moving it, then it no longer tracks that location from the inherited diagram. So there you have a brief demonstration of capsule structure diagram inheritance in UML-RT. Thank you.